No, if I really set my mind to it and I believe that I can do this and I put the work and the study in, then I will be able to grow a business. I've got to make my own job, my own luck. I am not going to let another person in this world dictate how my life's going to go.
Welcome to Homegrown CEO, the podcast for entrepreneurs, leaders, and business builders seeking actionable insights to grow their ventures and themselves. I'm your host, Matt Colborn, and today we're diving into arguably the most crucial skills for any successful entrepreneur: adaptability and agility. Resilience is something we've touched on before on this podcast, but today we're digging deeper because although they sound the same, there's a big difference between grit and perseverance, as revealed by today's guest, Jess Hodge. Founder of the award-winning recycled plastic company, Resourceful Living, Jess is well-versed in the challenges and setbacks of entrepreneurship. You'll soon hear about her admirable resilience through everything from job loss to a devastating arson attack. She'll share the mindset shifts, tactical pivots, and leadership strategies which helped her company continue to thrive and which you can take forward into your business from today. I can't wait for you to hear this one. Let's welcome Jess to the podcast. So before we get into the heavy stuff, just give me a bit of a sense of resourceful living today. Like, what are you actually doing and where's the business at?
Yeah, for sure. So Resourceful Living takes waste plastic, 1 through to 6, and then quite a few number 7s. And we do that to then make a whole range of products at the other end. And so what we're doing now is actually prepping ourselves to move into a bigger premise. So that's exciting, but also a little daunting. All of our plastic is Australian, and most of it actually comes from the Hunter, Newcastle, and down to Sydney is probably our circle of where the waste comes from.
And for people kind of hearing your story for the first time, this isn't the world that you started out in at all, is it? So take us back a little bit and share with us how you got to here.
For sure, yeah. If you had told 18-year-old me that we were going to be dumpster diving and transforming waste into things, I would have probably responded with, ew, no. I actually started off, I went to university and did a bachelor's of communication and marketing. And I feel that that's actually one of my first big catalysts in my life. Did what everyone sort of said, finish your 12, go to uni, get a job. And I did. But within 12 months, the agency that I'd got a job with actually folded. And I was, 12 months out of uni, then applying for all sorts of jobs. And it was 9 months of nothing. And it wasn't just marketing jobs. I ended up being so broad that even one dot point that I could remotely do, I was applying for.
Yeah.
And that was probably my biggest change in my mindset, where I actually decided that I've got to make my own job, my own luck. I got to stop relying on other people to say, yeah, you can come join our workforce. Then I actually went backpacking around Southeast Asia with my now husband.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the second big thing in my life. So growing up along the coast, going to Port Macquarie and Foster, which is just a bit more north than Newcastle, for school holidays. The idea of then going somewhere that the tides would bring in so much waste was just, I guess I was so naive in my 20s, but it was that moment when I went, oh, throw it away doesn't actually mean away. It just goes somewhere else. Yeah. And so that's actually where Resourceful Living came from. COVID definitely was that time where, looking internally, especially with lockdowns, never experienced anything like that before. And so we started our science experiments in our garage and have grown from there. So I've learned a lot on the job, but now I'm a huge advocate for, STEM and science. And I love sharing, everything that we've learned as well, because when Google doesn't have the answers, you're doing something very, very new.
So talk to me a little bit about how that experience of going through university and getting your first job only for it to be taken away through no fault of your own. How did that sort of really shape your early identity as a person?
Oh, it shaped massively because I'm very much a rule follower.
Mm.
And I feel that, I was ticking everything. Oh, I know that sounds probably a bit silly, but, oh, yes, get good grades in school, get into uni, be able to get a job. And the biggest hit came from when when they came to us and said, look, we're just closing up. And it was right before Christmas. It was the the worst time. It was about 2 weeks prior to Christmas Day. And so I figured, okay, I'll have a month off and I'll really start pushing in the new year. And it was my self-esteem and confidence that just started to shatter because, everything I do, I try really hard. I put 100% of my effort into, and to not even be given a chance and be 24 years old and be told that I'm overqualified or underqualified. I was like, how? I'm so new to the workplace. Like, and I think that really changed my mindset of, I originally thought, oh yeah, I'll just jump into another job, but there just wasn't the availability. Like, people weren't hiring at that point. And so, yeah, it was a really hard time that I had to remind myself that I was good at working. I could do a job and not let it eat away, because the rejections, wow, you don't understand how much it can hurt, especially over and over again.
My feeling is that we're probably heading into a recession into 2026 and 27. Do you have any comforting or practical advice for someone that might be going through a similar situation at an early stage of their career themselves at this point?
My biggest one would be that if you can supplement your current income with doing a side hustle or doing, you know, a business that you could do in the evening, I would definitely do that. I actually think as well, from starting my business at such a young age, it has taught me so much more than I ever would have had if I just went from, job to job. But I would definitely tell people to back themselves, and be, your stuff. Like, it doesn't matter if you're in a room full of people that apparently look more important than you. You know your thing, stick to it. And, if you can supplement additional income in case things get worse, definitely do that.
So that sounds like it was really the first time that you realized no one's going to come and map this out for you.
Yeah.
What was the first step that you took at that point?
The first step that I actually took after the 9 months, when I kind of just threw my hands up in the air and went, how long am I going to do this before I actually get a role? I actually started my own marketing business.
Okay.
And I just started to get some clients through that. And that's actually the job that I did prior to selling and then moving into Resourceful Living.
So what did that teach you about building a career on your own terms, having your own marketing clients and delivering that work that you'd been employed to do at an agency beforehand?
Definitely the imposter syndrome.
Okay.
Going into a room and not feeling as good as everyone else, and realizing that I was my biggest cheerleader and backer. And I had studied, I had worked hard, I continued to do research, so I knew what sort of, trends were happening, and to just believe in myself and not actually let the outside world go, oh, well, maybe you should just try and apply for one more job, because I'd done that for ages. And so it was really, I think, definitely more of a mindset change in terms of, no, if I really set my mind to it and I believe that I can do this and I put the work and the study in, then I will be able to grow a business. But it's very hard with the outside world of, everyone's got opinions.
So I think one of the things that founders are great at doing is they often will rewrite the early story of the business as if it was all deliberate, but usually it's been much messier than that. Share with me a little bit about the balance between staying true to the vision and the mission of the company, but being flexible enough in ensuring that the offering that the business has can actually succeed in the market.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely feel like with the coffee table, for example. So, thinking that everyone would want one. But then actually, we changed our focus and looking at, what we want the business to fulfill. So, one thing that we say is that the products that we make are 100% recycled plastic so that at end of life, they can come back and be recycled again. And so we've gone with that ethos so that then our products and services can change and adapt depending on what our market and our clients are telling us. But we stick true to always using 100% plastic and not, throwing in a bit of this and a bit of that. And that's how we stay true to ourselves rather than, sticking true to particular products. The other part is, how we utilize and use power. So, sticking to sustainability goals through that rather than, I'm never going to let go of this 900 table. Like being flexible then on how people respond and interact with our business.
I think sometimes the market tells you where the real business is, but it's only if you're willing to stop defending the original version. I think that can be very hard because as founders, we often tie part of our identity to the very first thing that we created. But some of the best growth decisions, I think, can come from having the maturity to say, well, look, this may not be exactly how I pictured it, but this is clearly where the value is. Your business is continuing to expand at the moment. What has changed in the business once you sort of started following that type of vision?
Yeah, you hit it perfectly. So emotionally in the start, it was like an additional child to me. I just wanted to care, love it, and I did what I liked. And I soon realized that what I like is totally my preference and not necessarily what anyone else in Australia likes. So I've actually been definitely over the last 2 years making a real big point of when I have not difficult decisions, but hard decisions and definitely decisions regarding scaling and things. I, have my couple of options in front of me and really make myself answer truthfully. Is that decision because I want to do it, or is it going to be the best for the business? And sometimes, when you sometimes trick yourself of like, oh yeah, no, that's my favorite chocolate, but it's because it's there and you really want just any sort of chocolate. Really making myself go, okay, like this is the best for the business. And I have found that since I've started doing that, just the amount of clients and the inquiries, but they're so much more construction sector based now, which means they don't care about color. They just want to run past our factory and pick up 50 sheets. And so our team are cheering because that means bulk plastic can be remanufactured and straight out the door. Whereas if I was to really, hang on to it, I would have definitely pushed for, bespoke colors and pretty looking desks and things, which is what I like to do. But actually making decisions of, no, we're going to get our sheets formwork tested. So they're at Australian, New Zealand standards to be swapped out from plywood was one of the best business decisions. But, if I was to make an emotional decision, I would have been like, no, that's such a boring product.
Share with us some of those practical steps. You're obviously a very creative person, and it takes a huge degree of creativity to get into starting a business. You're in a manufacturing business that can be inherently rigid by its nature. You found adaptability to a market without losing your focus. Share for us some of the practical steps in how you've gone about making some of those types of decisions.
I am definitely a list person who then I put my two options on either side of the paper and I write my pros and cons out.
Okay.
I find visually being able to actually see pros and cons of things the best way to make an informed decision. I find that if I try and do things in my head, I don't know, see the whole picture in a way. We've also now got quite a few staff, which is exciting. And we also really encourage their feedback and knowledge, especially since the guys work with the machine, with the material, they're really helpful in look, this is what we're thinking. And they've got some thoughts, they've got some feedback. And I find that, involving your team can also help rather than thinking, yeah, I'm the founder of the business, I'll make the decision. But actually bringing the people that do the job as well, especially if you're changing something that they're doing, on board. And I find that then those sorts of decisions as well, if we are making a change in the workshop, are adapted a lot better from the team as well, because they've been part of that initial process of going, look, we need to up our efficiencies. These are the three options we're looking at. And most times the guys on the floor go, oh, that one would be way better. And so then you look at, costs and how much we can, how quickly we can implement. And we find that really has helped grow the business, because it's not just, I guess, the top going, yes, you're going to do it this way, when I don't do their job day in, day out. So yeah, I find that really helpful.
Yeah, I think it is helpful when you open that sphere of collaboration and you're getting inputs from different people, stakeholders in the business, different roles within the business, sometimes even from different folk in your supply chain. There's definitely some hurdles in business, and you've had some bigger hurdles than others. Take us back to the arson attack that your business suffered. And I think for anyone that has had to go through that, it is probably one of the most testing moments that you could have in a business. Is the business even going to bounce back and continue on after such an event? What do you remember most clearly about that day?
It's crazy. So it happened overnight. And so the year was 2024, and somehow my friend sent me the most blurriest picture ever. And yeah, I woke my husband Jeff up and said, oh, I think the factory's on fire. And we live about 5 minutes from the factory. And so when he didn't text me pretty quickly, when you just get that thought, you haven't heard from anyone, but you go, okay, I think it's, and so we actually have 3 boys, and they were 6, 4, and 2 at the time.
Okay.
I sat them down in our living room and I said, look, we're all fine. All of our employees are fine, but it seems that the factory has had a fire. So I'm going to take you down to my parents' house, and then, but we're all fine. There's, we'll get through this. And my eldest son said, oh, could we take some marshmallows down? And it was that comment that I realized from a child that we could get through anything. Obviously, I did have to say, unfortunately, no, that's not an option at this point. It was such a bit of a whirlwind in terms of, insurances and working with police. But it was the fork in the road that really said, you're going to stop or you're going to keep going. And it was like, no, we'll just get through it. And we just put one foot in front of the other. And within 90 days, we were back up and producing.
Wow.
And I think the biggest thing that I've learned from it is anything you can work through. no one was injured. So essentially all that we lost was metal and plastic, like in a very simple context, and all of it was replaceable. And I think it's realizing that sometimes something can seem so big and massive, but if you just take some small little steps, we had to list everything that was inside the factory. And so I decided that, over 3 days, I would spend, a couple hours each day doing that. So not bombarding myself with, you got to get this whole thing done, because there was a lot of stuff in there, but just going, what's manageable? How can I do this? And I think in the early piece, it was, okay, I can do this, like really geeing myself up. I did have a great playlist that I made, but then by the end of it, it was like we were just back doing what we always wanted to do. And I do say to people that now I've had that, and I hope no one else has to experience it, but it has provided me with an amazing catastrophe scale, and things prior to the fire that would stress me out, even down to just simple client emails. No, everything you can work through, and you just need to take the time, write out what the problems are, and take the top one or the middle, whatever you feel that you can manage, and then just work through it. And I think doing that, you feel more accomplished. Our shed was completely made of ColourBond and steel, and there were these, big beams that literally triangled onto the ground. And for me, I thought steel was the strongest material ever. And for me to see our whole roof collapsed, I was really shocked. But then it's just shown me that no, you can work through it, and to ask for support. Like the businesses around our area, when it happened, it was so lovely. Like we had so many businesses say, we've got space, like come and set up here, or we ate lots of different lasagnas. It was so beautiful, which definitely helped with pushing through that. But just taking a little bit, I think is my biggest takeaway from that, because looking at the scenario as a whole, that made me feel overwhelmed. But then going, no, like let's find a new place to set up premise. Let's look at getting a new CNC router. And so just doing little jobs, by the end of it, we're like, hey, we got a factory back.
You've got a distinction that I really like, which is the difference between grit and real resilience. Talk me through that a little bit more. Like, what does fake toughness look like in founders?
Oh, definitely. So I actually feel that for me, grit in the early days was just a bit of like continuing to push forward. And my best analogy is like, you're doing a mud run and you're, under the rope part, and you're like, oh, just keep going. Whereas I really find that with perseverance, you're actually looking at how to make it better. You're actually looking at the whole picture, and you're building on what you've got, and you're showing your resilience of like having setbacks, but making changes so that those same setbacks don't happen again. And I feel like when business owners really take a step back, and rather than just feeling like they've got to push through just continually, maybe looking at, where can you look at other clients? Where can you make a change and find new markets? Can you offer an additional service rather than just more products? Because then, it's a bit more of your time than just selling a product. So that's kind of how I see with perseverance, people just making more informed choices as well. So like they're still, taking the punches, but they're making decisions and changes so that it's not that, like they're crawling through the mud, losing their shoes, and they they get to the end and they're like, oh my gosh, what was that whirlwind?
When do you feel that grit becomes counterproductive for operators?
I actually think I've got a really good turning point of, I think it was when we got to our third hire. And so I was very much still, come on, everybody, we're going, right? Whereas then starting to really listen to others and actually find people in the market that are going to give you honest feedback. I can be I don't know what the word is, but asking people what they think who I know are going to give me the response that I'm wanting. So I feel that when I got that third employee, that's actually when I then got, it kind of just happened, but found then like a business mentor. They're a framing business, so not manufacturing at all, but actually being able to be honest with them about the business and having an outsider, to chat to that's not directly part of the business. And I feel like that's when I started to be more resilient and more like persevering, because I was then bringing everyone else along in the situations, asking for feedback, rather than just thinking the further I pull everyone, the better we'll be, which is not, I would not recommend.
How much of developing your resilience advantage came from having more self-awareness about being able to read the moments in the business properly?
So there's definitely times when you make a decision and go, oh, maybe not the best one. But I think it's then how you rectify that, or you just, make another change or just go ahead with it. I think being aware as well of what we spoke about a bit earlier was the decision being for the business. So trying to look at your business as its own entity rather than just an extension of yourself. So then, what is the best for the business? The same as, what you may do with an elderly family member. What is the best for them? Is it staying at home or is it getting more care? Kind of removing yourself than thinking of, well, I love this in my business. I love playing 2000 pop music really loud. So I think they're the few things that, if you start to think of it, how you would answer those sorts of questions, you can remove yourself a bit and then make better choices for your business. And if scaling is one of them, it definitely helps, because when you then put down the list of costs and buying new machines, you're like, oh goodness, are we doing this? But when you've gone through everything and you go, no, this is the best for the business, this is how we get more clients on board, it doesn't seem so daunting, because you go, well, we've looked at everything and this is the best choice for the business, not my emotional state.
Do you think it's possible to cultivate genuine resilience in yourself as a person?
I definitely think so. And I think all of our brains work differently, but I do regularly say to myself, you can do this, you've got this, you've done something similar, and make it that I don't let it overwhelm me. And I know that is way easier said than done, and there are times definitely within a business that you do have a cry, but regrouping and going, okay, I've let all that emotion out. Now what one task am I going to do today that's going to make me feel great? And sometimes that's all that I do, because the other thing as business owners, we never turn off. I saw something great the other day that said, yay, be a business owner, because then you get to choose which 12 hours in a day you work. And I went, oh, how perfect. But I think that being able to, pick yourself up, but realize not every day you're going to feel great. You're going to be 100%. And it's okay. Definitely online, we all put our best foot forward.
Mm.
But some days is hard to just roll out of bed. And I think we need to be more accepting of that. And if you need a day that you only do three jobs, well, be proud of yourself for getting the 3 jobs done. Don't think that, I have a bit of a giggle with my mentor that, the list is never ending. And it is, right? There's always something else you could do. But know that you don't have to be on and feeling awesome all the time, and give yourself a pat on the back if you get 1 job done or 3, I kind of relate it back similar to when they talk about mum guilt. Like, some days just don't go to plan, and that's okay because there is tomorrow. Just give yourself a pat on the back sometimes for turning up.
Some days it's okay just to not get out of our pajamas, right?
Oh, exactly. Like, sometimes you need some just you time. And I definitely in the early days struggled hugely with that, because I thought if I'm not working in and on the business, then, where's it going to go? But I've found that since taking that time, especially on weekends, because most of our clients are all Monday to Friday jobs, it has helped me immensely.
Yeah.
Being able to then regulate my time and my emotions by going, no, Sundays, that's me. Yeah.
Before we finish, I want to go to your kitchen bench moment. So when you look back across your journey, what was the moment that really changed the trajectory of your life or the way you see your work?
Ooh. I think the biggest change would have actually been during the fire, where it actually showed me that, you can work through anything. And that has then provided the scale up that we were wanting to do. I guess a bit as well is, we got some free press through that. And I feel that from that point, I have never been more determined to make this work and grow than any other time of starting this business. Like, I feel that the point in the fire, because it was no fault of our own at all, it actually brought me back to when I was struggling to get a job. And it actually definitely ignited something within me, this drive where I went, no, I am not going to let another person in this world dictate how my life's going to go. And I think from October 24 to now, I have never been more determined and passionate about making and scaling the business.
What a great story. Despite all the hardship that's come her way in business, Jess has found that perfect balance between determination and agility, which has ensured both the endurance and the huge success of her business. Take her advice to heart. Stay flexible, stick to your values, and make decisions based on what's best for the business, always. Thank you for joining us today on the Homegrown CEO podcast. I really hope you found some inspiration and motivation from today's episode to carry you through into your own business ventures. And if you're hungry for more, become a member of our exciting Homegrown CEO community to find exclusive resources to strengthen your own agility, widen your network of mentorship, and enjoy special bonus content from my conversation with Jess. Click the link in the show notes to join us at a discounted rate. Remember to subscribe to the show to be the first to know when our next episode drops. We look forward to you joining us then. Until next time, I've been Matt Colborn.